بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. صلى الله عليك يا رسول الله، صلى الله عليك وعلى أهل بيتك يا المعصومين. صلى الله عليك يا مولاي وابن مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة. ما خاب من تمسك بكم، أمنا من لجأ إليكم. يا ليتنا كنا معكم سيدي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن سيدنا وعظيمنا وحبيب قلوبنا النبي المؤيد والرسول المسدد والمصطفى الأمجد والمحمود الأحمد حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم محمد صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين. سفن النجاة الأعلام، من ركب سفينتهم نجا ومن تخلف عنها هلك وغرق. ثم أما بعد. Respected elders, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As I said yesterday that I'm approaching the end of my series of lectures on the link between Hajj as a spiritual journey and that of the journey of Imam Hussein, where Imam Hussein salawatullahi wasalamu alayh in fact interpreted every ritual in Hajj into a practical dimension of his movement, salawatullahi wasalamu alayh, in order that we can grasp the concept of what it means to perform an actual act of worship. And there is always a dimension other than the actual ritual that we do when it comes to the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whether it is salah, whether it is siyam. Siyam, for example, is not meant to be just that we can, for example, feel the pressure of hunger and thirst. That's one part of it, right? But there is a wider part to siyam, for example. There is a wider part to salah. Salah in itself, for example, is a medium that I feel that I want to pray only on the basis that I safeguard myself or I'm fearful of the creator that I'm worshipping. That's a negative approach, right? I should rather approach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when it comes to the issue of salah on a positive medium. It's not that I'm fearful of Allah that He would put me in hellfire. No, I want to pray to Allah because I feel that He is worthy of being worshipped, right? Then the whole idea of salah changes in your mind. The whole idea of the approach in itself changes the entire dimension of your own existence as a person, right? So don't look at any act of worship from a negative attitude. Even if you want to compel your children to understand the medium of prayer, or you want to call them for prayer, never tell your children you have to pray. It's a negative attitude because then they feel prayer is a burden. Rather, we should tell our children, do you want to pray? Right? It's a completely different approach to the medium of prayer, right? And you must become an example of that positivity, in the sense that if you want your children to follow suit in terms of these acts of worship, then you drop everything and attend to it. Don't expect your children to drop everything and then see you, for example, engage in something that is even maybe considered by them less trivial than what they are doing themselves. Right? Rather, you put a positive image towards them. Why I say all of this? Because the question today, who is being targeted in the world we are living in? Yani, for example, I'm worried about, yani, let's say, I'm worried about my dad not making it to heaven, or I'm worried about my mom not making it to heaven. Someone who's been 70, 80 years praying for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, non-stop and approaching God in every... No, I'm not afraid about... I'm really worried about the youth of today. Right? They are the ones who are the focus of globalization and the war on ethics and principles and values and you name it. Right? This is what's happening today. They want to take our children from us at any cost, in every way possible. Right? Because they themselves have lost the plot. And you know why they've lost the plot? I'll tell you why. One of the most significant thing in the life of a human being is the concept and the dimension of faith. When you take faith away from a human being, there is nothing to substitute that vacuum inside him or inside her. So they resort to every possible avenue that is available to them in order to do what? In order to fill that vacuum. Right? And that vacuum, I can assure you, from experience, through psychologists, through psychiatrists, through scientists, who day by day are discovering this, and they are noting this, and they are making research about this, that this vacuum, when iman or faith is taken away, cannot be filled except with faith. You cannot fill it up with games. No wonder why, for example, this Fortnite is 700 stages. Right? Who can finish 700 stages? In order to create an alternate to that vacuum. So you're always hooked. Right? You're always hooked. Stage after stage, stage after stage, stage after stage, stage after... While if you leave all these stages and you turn to something of a spiritual nature, you find yourself no longer tense, no longer agitated, no longer on edge, but rather you will feel the tranquility that Allah spoke about in the Quran when He said, "Ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub." Right? Ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub. Surely with the remembrance of Allah, the heart will be overcome by tranquility. Right? You tell me, for example, if someone loses a dear person to him, or someone had lost someone that means the world to him, whether it's a son or a wife or a dad or a brother or a sister, right? If you give that person on the spur of the moment $1,000 or $1 million to calm them down, would the $1 million in that particular moment calm them down? No, it won't. But you know what will calm them down? Going near them and whispering in their ears, "It's okay, put your trust in Allah and say salawat ala Muhammad wa al Muhammad." All of a sudden, they calm down. Bis salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Right? Because it has its effect. Allah made that effect in the heart and mind of the human being. He made you that way. He made you to respond to faith. He made you to, even at your worst. Of course, not you. When I say at your worst, I'm not meaning you, right? I'm speaking in general. They say once there was a group of people who do شو يسمونهم دولة بالإنجليزي قطاع طرق. What do they call them? Vandal. أحسنت. So they attacked a person on his way and took his money, and went back to the leader. So they told the leader asked him, "When you took the man's money, what did he do?" He said he went into sajda. He went into sajda. And he began to cry and preach and appeal to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help him in this trial and plight. You know what the leader of the vandals said? He said, "Go back and give him his money. Because نحن سراق مال ولسنا سراق عقيدة." Allahu Akbar. He said, "We steal money, we don't steal people's faith." If that guy now lifts up from his prayer and his money is not back, he will lose trust in Allah. And I'm not here to make people lose trust in Allah. Oh, this is a thief. A thief saying that. Imagine. Why do you think this is so? Because Allah has made it by default in the heart of people to feel the presence of Allah. But they block it. We block. Superficially we block it. Why? Because it is there. Fitratullahi allati fatara an-nasa alayha. This is the innate nature in which Allah created every human being. Meaning, even if you try to take it out, you will not be able to take it out. Because it's embedded. It's embedded in you. You cannot take it out from yourself. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. How do they approach our youth? And how do they target them? They target them with glitter terminology. One of these glitter terminology that they try to, lure our children and our youth into it is modernization. You need to be modern. The question about modernity is one of two. If modernity means to be someone who is able and capable to proceed with the changes of time, yet keep his values and principles, then we are all with modernity. Right? We all want to be modern, no problem. Modern mean what? To appear in a good way, to apply perfume, to wear a good pair of whatever, to put cufflinks. What's wrong with that? There's no issue. Right? No issue. In fact, if you put cufflinks, your own demeanor and the way you act will enhance the way you act. You know why? Because you can't sit the way you want. You will be controlled by the effect of the cufflink. You have to sit in a particular way. Right or wrong? You can't just sit like that or sit like that. No. It will annoy you. Right? You have to sit in a particular, etiquette. Oh, Islam is against etiquette? Islam not against etiquette. On the contrary. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and his household were full of etiquettes. Full of etiquettes. So much so that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, whenever he was to receive a delegation that comes to inquire about Islam with the Prophet, or they want to meet the Prophet to discuss a major important issue in the Arabian Peninsula, he would go and change his clothes. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He had a particular uniform that he would wear just for these delegations. This is being modern? Fine, be modern in that regard. But to put a tie and a suit and talk to me about modernity, and you are bombing children and women at every cost in every way possible, and then you call me the terrorist? And you want me to be modern like you? No, keep your modernity to yourself. Right? I'd rather be a simple human being that keeps his values and principle than your version of modernity. Right? But they don't come and tell you this. They don't come and tell you this. They come and tell you that being modern is being progressive. So what does being progressive mean? Means to give up on the habits of your family and your forefathers and parents. Why? Tell me something. What is wrong with our parents? What is wrong with our parents? What principles did our parents not give us that made us excellent human being? Right? What is it that our parents did not teach us that was for our own benefit and interest? At their own cost, right or wrong? At their own cost. So that you become a better person. And always remember this, my dear sisters and brothers, especially the youngsters. If you go around the whole world and you look for everyone around, of course, when I'm talking about parents in that way, I'm talking about normal parents, by the way. Because we do have the odd ones. We have the freakouts, right? Those are not included in my discussion. I'm talking about the normal ones. Yeah? The normal ones that do everything in their power to give us a life of decency and dignity and respect and honor and you name it, right? These are the kind of parents I'm talking about. These parents, subhanallah, you will not in your entire life, if you travel the world from end to end, and we have people here who have traveled this world from end to end, right? If you ask them, would you ever find anyone beside these two kind of people who would wish that you would be better than them? They will tell you no. Parents and teachers. The only two people that would want you to be better than them. Even if it means they will sacrifice themselves for you. Only your parents and your teachers. Again, I'm talking about the normal teachers, by the way. Not the odd ones. Not the ones that, يعني. But may Allah, wallah al-azim, wallah, maybe now they will call me regressive. You know, sometimes it's good to bring back the cane, you know. والله ما تربينا إلا من العصا. إيه والله ما ربتنا إلا هاي الخيزرانة مالت, you know, الناظر اللي قاعد بآخر الطابور. That's what fixed us, you know. That's what put us online. When the cane went out of the school system, the whole school system collapsed, you know. Of course, I'm not saying use it arbitrarily, you know, in the way that you break someone's head or someone's hand or bones. I'm not talking about that, you know. I'm talking about positive discipline in one way or another, in order to understand that modernity that they want us to follow is not something for our own best interest. It's not in our own best interest. We also believe that our youth are encountering the most serious challenges to their faith under the impact of what we call what today? A godless society. Right? They don't want you to remember God. They don't want you to have God in your system. Everything you do, they want to eliminate from your existence the word God. You cannot, you know, so much so that sometimes in a discussion, in an academic discussion. Yani for example, if you are an academic in an academia setup, and you're a professor, or you're an academic who practices his faith and practices his religion, and you have seen through your own research that it is impossible for this world to come into existence without a maker, you would shy away from saying the word God. Because in a setup of academia, this is not accepted to that extent. Right? To that extent. You will be actually shunned away by your own colleagues in universities and college for actually believing in God. In God. But you know what? As I said always, وَيَمْكُرُونَ وَيَمْكُرُ اللَّهُ وَاللَّهُ خَيْرُ الْمَاكِرِينَ. Now we are getting a reverse effect by scientists who are also religious in their own term, who are coming and arguing even against Dawkins himself, face to face with him and with those who were before him, to prove that this universe and their mindset is corrupt on the basis of the denial of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or a God. Right? Or a God. So don't be fooled by these calls of, you know, a godless society. Don't be fooled by the terms of religion is the worst enemy for peace. It's on account of religions that we have the issue. It is on account of religions that we had wars. No, it's not on account of religion that we had wars. Right? And thank God, we can safely say this, that we had nothing to do with World War I. We had nothing to do with World War II. We had, right or wrong? Thank God, right? How many people were killed in World War I? 1913. How many? Millions. In 37 to 45 or 43, World War II, how many? You know how many? I'll tell you how many. 2% of the world population. 2% of the world population. If it was 5 million, you make your own calculation. 2% were eliminated of the world population. But you know what? They call the Prophet is a terrorist, right? Astaghfirullah ya Rasulullah. But this is the term. The Prophet led 80 battles and skirmishes. 80 battles and skirmishes. 7 of them were battles. 7 of them were battles. And the rest were what? Skirmishes. If you add all those who died in all of the 80 battles and skirmishes, do you know what the number is? 256 people. 256 people died in all the 80 skirmishes and battles that the Prophet ﷺ led. Now tell me something. Badr was fought where? Where? Uhud. Khandaq. All Medina? Am I right or wrong? All Medina. Yani the Prophet never went out to Mecca to fight. So what was he doing? Fighting or repelling? Ajib. And he's a terrorist. Someone who's defending his own home. Someone he's defending his own people. Someone who's repelling against those who are attacking him. You call him an offensive warrior or a defensive warrior? A defensive. Someone who's defending himself. He never went to Mecca to fight these battles. He never went back to, you know, what do you call it, to this area on top of Mecca, which is 84 kilometers away. No, Mutabuk. Ahsant. Rahmallah waldak. At-Ta'if. They threw him with pebbles. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. His blood mixed with the dirt on his feet. And then what was his approach? This terrorist that they call, wal-iyadhu billah. What was his approach? Did he pray to Allah against them? Hashak ya Rasulullah. Hashak. The most amazing, soft, merciful, loving human being to walk the face of this earth. When that, according to some riwayat, it says the angel who is in charge of the mountains came to Rasulullah and said, Ya Rasulullah, do you want to, finish them? Finish these people of At-Ta'if? Do you want me to collapse these mountains on top of them? Because At-Ta'if sits between two high mountains, right? قال لا اللهم اهد قومي فإنهم لا يعلمون. قومي نسبهم إليه. He related these people to him. He did not say, oh Allah, guide my enemies. He did not consider them enemies. He considered them as his own people. Why? Why? Because he continues the prayer. Allahumma hdi qawmi fa innahum la ya'lamun. Law alimu lama fa'alu. They don't know. They've been lured into thinking that here I am coming to them to undermine them. Little they know that I'm coming here to lift them, to raise them from the worship of the idols to the worship of the one and only that needs no one. But his hands are always open. Hands, not physical hands. I mean his ability to give, right? Ability to give, always open to his creation. So approach him. If someone wants to take, if someone wants to take God from you, tell him, I would rather die than lose my godship or lose the God that I believe in. I would do anything to keep God in my life, because without God in my life, I do not exist. And subhanallah, ما عصي الله بشيء إلا وقد خلقه هو لك. Allah was never disobeyed with anything except with the things that he gave you. You disobey him with your tongue, he created you. You disobey him with your hands, he gave you those hands. You disobey him with your legs, he gave you those legs. You disobey him with your own mind. The mind that should make you believe more in Allah. You sit and you start pondering about things, how to deny the existence of Allah. And you could never do anything against Allah without the very things that he bestowed upon you. What paradox is that? What paradox? That Allah gives me all these things and I deny him, and I say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I am gonna deny you with the very things that you gave me. How audacious a human being can be, right? How ungrateful a human being can be in that regard. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Not only that, you and I, because by the way, don't think I'm old. I consider myself a youth until I die, inshallah. So I'm with the youth until I die. 18/7, this 18/7. Yani the day after Muharram. After Muharram. The day I fly out of Kuwait is my birthday. I turn 60. I feel 30. Thank you. Inshallah. When it comes, inshallah. When it comes. So, I talk to you as I am one of you. Okay? So, there is no formalities. Please accept me the way I am. Right? I don't like this formality business between you and me. I am one of you and I'm only here to serve. Right? No titles. No, Wallah al-Azim. The least of my concerns are those titles. Sheikh no, Maulana, Akhuna is better. You know, let's be at the same level with one another. We can learn more from one another if we get away with these formalities, right? If we get away with these formalities. The youth are being asked to give up on what? Listen to this. On what? Number one, certain family and social values. Number one, they don't want you to keep these social and family values. It's unfortunate due to the tsunami of gadgets today. We want to go and visit our mothers, for example. The mom and the children all on an iPhone. What's this? What sort of visit is this? Why are you visiting one another? So what do? This is one thing you should start practicing. The minute you go and visit a family member or you are in a family gathering, someone should go around with a basket and collect all the phones. All the phones. Sit and talk to one another. I want to communicate. Facebook is about communicating with those that we love most. So when you sit with those that you love most, how are you communicating with them? By text messaging. May he's sitting next to you. Or she's sitting next to you. Drop the damn phone and have a real conversation. Right? Talk to one another. Try to learn. Imam Ali salawatullahi wasalam, you know what he says? من شاور الناس شاركهم في عقولهم. Meaning what? عجيب, huh, doctor? Allah, عجيب. من شاور الناس شاركهم في. The one that consults and discusses with people, he actually adds part of their intelligence to his intelligence. What more benefit do you want? Right? Sit and experience this wealth of, exchanging ideas and values, because it raises you to another level. It makes you a better human being, right? In understanding how you should behave in terms of benefiting others and not just advancing yourself. No, it's not about the self. It's about learning in order to advance others. Like yesterday I was saying in my second majlis in Kuwait, I said, have you ever in your wildest imagination seen any gathering in the world where the one that receives is honored or the one that gives is honored? Tell me. The giver, right? The giver. Whether the giver is money, whether the giver is experience, whether the giver is an advice, whatever it is, these are the ones that get recognized. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already acknowledged that. He said subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran in many places. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in many of his ahadith, Ahlul Bayt salamullah alayhim ajma'in, always emphasize on the act of giving, not the act of collecting or taking. Exactly. And when we talk about giving, we're not just simply talking about money. Forget money. I said money is not always the thing that you need. Sometimes a word can give you so much perspective than all the money in the world, right? Of course, we need money to get by. I'm not saying no. And in fact, my position, my perception, my understanding of money, we as Muslims should be at top when it comes to finances. So no one can control us. That we can feed from our own resources and not be dependent on any other resource, right? So no one can dictate terms on you, right? No one can dictate terms on you. When you eat of your own resources, no one can dictate term to you. You will be the one who dictates the terms on the rest of the world, right? And you can control certain, pathways and seaways and whatever ways, right? When you talk from here, and you eat from your own resources. But they don't want our children to be like this. They want our children to be part of a culture that is only based on consumables, materialism. Today the fashion is this, tomorrow the fashion is that. Even when it came to fashion, they want to dictate their fashion on you. Okay? This is the way you should dress. This is the way you should dress. I don't want to dress with a pair of jeans that has 17 holes in it. I don't see anything right with it. Right? I don't want to dress in a jeans that is, they call it skinny leg jeans. You look awful, bro. Wallah, you look awful. It's abnormal. Abnormal. But due to media concentration, do we all fall victim to it or not? What is our take out of not wearing it? That's the fashion, bro. Right? Everyone is wearing it. Right? Everyone is doing it. Right? Since when did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran or in the prophetic traditions or the prophet or the Imam's traditions has majority been endorsed? Since when? أكثرهم لا يعقلون أكثرهم لا يشكرون أكثرهم لا and the list goes on. لا يفقهون لا يتفكرون لا يعقلون لا يشكرون. The majority don't think. The majority don't comprehend. The majority are not grateful. The majority. وَقَلِيلٌ مِّنْ عِبَادِيَ الشَّكُورِ. Allahu Akbar. Only a few among my servants are the one who are truly grateful to what Allah gives them or whatever they have with them. Ajib. Allah endorses the minority, not the majority. Yes, I say to my sisters and to my brothers, you don't want to become a doctor, don't become a doctor. You don't want to become an engineer, don't become. For God's sake, become a fashion designer that has some sense of fashion. Wallah, some sense of fashion. Bring modesty back into our existence. Habibi? Exactly. Because there's no market for it, because we are the ones who are selling ourselves to the market. Right? Selling ourselves. You go into a mosque, the men's section, not here, alhamdulillah for dijdash, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Wallah, the most modest of dresses. The minute I leave Australia, I don't know pants. And I don't want to know pants and shirts, I just dress in that way. Okay, maybe everyone has his own sense of fashion. Right? But you go into the mosque in the West, for example. Ya akhi, all you see is the CK brand and the Bonds and the Boss. Ya Habibi, I'm coming to pray. I'm not coming here to know the brand of your underwear. Right? Dress modesty in the mosque. The least you can do. Right? All because of what? This half pair of jeans that it doesn't even pull up. La ilaha illallah. It doesn't even pull up. It's amazing. And you know what? Although we are laughing about it, because it is laughable, but the paradox is we still do it. It's like we're not willing to even, compromise on something that has been dictated to us in a manner that we know inside us that it is not to our own benefit. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look well, I designed my own fashion in Australia. I'm not going to talk about myself. But one day I'm standing in a line waiting for coffee. That's common in Australia. You have to have a cup of coffee in the morning. Again, you have to, right? No, you don't have to, right? You don't have to. Okay. So this lady looks at me and says, I've never seen you in any attire, but in these similar attires that you dress in. Are you going to a wedding every day? I said, no, I'm not going to a wedding. I'm going to work. She says, this is the way you dress to work. I said, yes, what's wrong with it? She said, it's too refined, bro. It's too refined. We don't have this kind of dress in this kind. I said, yeah, I know. The last of the people to worry about proper fashion are the Australians and the Aussies. Just give them a pair of jeans and a pair of sandals. That's all they wear. And a singlet. What is this? What is this? You know, even in Islam, let me tell you this, even in Islam, when Allah allowed men to wear, for example, the least minimum garments in public, Islam took into account that men at that time were the working force, right? And because most of their work was labor work, right? And they were not in an environment where they would be exposing themselves to the opposite gender, Islam allowed them to dress loosely, right? But did Islam allow someone to be in shorts, for example, when women are parading and coming in and out? No. No, it's not. In fact, all of our maraja of taqlid say, although it is okay to dress like that, but it is not befitting to dress like that. It's not befitting. And you know what kills me sometimes? Us men, yalla, the woman will celebrate today. Is that I take my wife to the beach, she's draped from head to toe in abaya, and I'm swimming in shorts. Like, don't you have at least a bit of, respect for your own wife and her feeling that she's fully draped and you are in a singlet? At least if you don't want to care about the rest of the women on the beach, at least have some concern and respect to your wife who's standing right next to you. Or otherwise go build her a swimming pool where she can do whatever she wants in her own private time. But don't parade yourself in front of your wife in public in a way by saying, Wallah, I'm hot. Shame on you. You're hot and she's in abaya and you're saying, I'm hot, I have to be in a singlet and a pair of shorts. Don't allow these concepts to come into your minds, brothers and sisters. Tomorrow you're going to be husbands, right? You need to honor your wives. You need to know how to relate to your wives in that regard. What's the time? 7. أحسنت. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. So they want to rid you of things like your identity, to adopt in its place a sense of self-alienated, self-estranged imitator of everything that they call modern. Whether or not they truly, these youth, understand what is modernity or not. As long as they dictate it to you and you accept it, that is their plan and plot. You need to follow suit. The new age of so-called rationalism. This is the new form of thinking now. What is the new thought? I don't need someone to tell me what is right and wrong. I can work out what is right and wrong. Fine. I will agree with you. But this right and wrong that you can make up yourself, if the place of inception for these particular do's and don'ts are your own mind, the minute these do's and don'ts will collide with your own self-interest, you will give up on them, right or wrong. But if they come from an authority that you believe in, no matter what collides with you, you will not give up on your do's and don'ts. So you need a backing for this so-called rationalism. Because rationalism without an authority that backs it means nothing other than a set of recommendations from a friend to a friend who is at liberty to accept them or reject them anytime he wants or she wants. Right or wrong? Right? That's how it is. That's how rationalism is. But when rationalism is backed by a set of faith, like we read yesterday, وَمَا كَانَ لِمُؤْمِنٍ وَلَا مُؤْمِنَةٍ إِذَا قَضَى اللَّهُ وَرَسُولُهُ أَمْرًا أَنْ يَكُونَ لَهُمُ الْخِيرَةُ مِنْ أَمْرِهِمْ. That's it. I apply my brakes regardless of rationalism or otherwise. Because I know now there is a system that supports the do's and don'ts, and I will not overstep the do's and don'ts of that authority. Because I fully believe in that authority. Because whatever that authority says or does, it is in my best interest. That they don't want for you. Right? That they don't want for you. And one of the most amazing human being, because I need to go to the majlis, that actually personified this particular issue of non-rationalism, who believed wholeheartedly in the concept of submitting to an authority higher than her. was none other than Al-Baneen, salawatullah wa salamuhu alayha. Right? Al-Baneen, why is Al-Baneen a classic example, brothers and sisters? Because often when we speak about role models, who do we quote? The Imams. The first thing our children would say, but the Imam, I can never be like him. Right? He's infallible, he's chosen, they have particular abilities that none of us can actually even get closer to them. Yes, of course there are role models because we can learn from them at least certain things that are of a human nature, right? Certain things that are of... But when you have an example like Al-Baneen, who was not infallible, right? She comes to inspire and say, if Al-Baneen can do it, then I can do it. Ahsan. If Al-Hurr al-Riyahi can do it, then I can do it. If Habib ibn Mudahar can do it, then I can do it. If John can do it, then I can do it. If Abu Dhar can do it, I can do it. Because these are normal human beings. They're like you and me. What is the difference between us and them? The difference between us and them is that they worked on themselves. And you and I can work on ourselves in order to... You know why? In fact, brothers and sisters, and I say this to myself first, before I say it to anyone. We are negligent of becoming the caliber of companions like the companions of our Imams, though we are the companions of an Imam. Right or wrong? Are we living the era of our Imam or not? So the caliber of our character should be like that of, for example, Kumail ibn Ziyad or not? It should be, because the Imam expects you to be like that. Now you are his companion. He's waiting for you to revamp yourself, to recharge yourself, to readdress yourself, to redo yourself in order that he knows now you are ready, then I will come out. What delays the return of the Imam from occultation? It's the fact that he doesn't want to come? Or is it on account of the news that reaches him about us? It's on account of the news that reaches us about us, that we are not ready to receive him if he comes out now. So this Al-Baneen, when Imam Ali salawatullahi salam alayhi wanted to marry Al-Baneen, he sends Aqil. He said, find me someone that I can marry. So Imam Aqil says to his brother, Imam Ali, he says, what do you want to marry for? Now, of course, when we marry to be happy, we marry to have children, to see our children doing well. Imam Ali says to Aqil, one of the most phenomenal thing I've ever heard in my life. He said, I want to have children from her so that they can be martyrs alongside my son Al-Hussein. This is your plan, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen? Ajib. What an amazing plan. That I want them to be the backbone of his expedition in Karbala. So, fine. So he goes. And he says, don't worry, leave it to me. Do you give me the authority to act on your behalf? He said, of course I give you an authority to act on my behalf. But who are you going to see? He says, there is no one except Fatima bint Hizam al-Kilabiyya. Her father is one of our supporters. He admits to your wilaya, without a doubt. And her mother Tumama as well. She is one of the followers of the wilaya of Amir al-Mu'mineen, salawatullah wa salamuhu alayha. How old was Al-Baneen, by the way, when Imam Ali married her? Do you know? She was born on the 5th year of Hijrah. Yani she was younger than Zainab, salamullah alayha. Yet when she moved into the house of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Zainab, salamullah alayha, called her what? Called her Ummi. Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein never called anyone Ummah except Al-Baneen after Fatima al-Zahra. Salawatullah wa salamuhu alayha. Right? She was 19-year-old, born on the year 5th. She was engaged to Amir al-Mu'mineen on the year 24 after Hijrah. Right? Sayyidah Zainab was born on the 4th year of Hijrah. Right? According to some riwayat. Imam Hassan 2nd, Imam Hussein 3rd year of... So they were all older than her. Right? Look at this woman. Look at this woman. She says, one day, she tells her mom is combing her hair, and Aqil is coming to ask for her hand. So she's sitting in front of her mom, and her mom is combing her. She said, Mom, you know what? I saw a dream. She said, what did you see? She said, I saw myself in a beautiful garden with a beautiful bright sky, but it was at night. Bright mean bright with, the moon and the stars. All of a sudden, while I'm sitting there, 3 stars fell and a moon in my lap. And I held them and I felt such a remarkable feeling that I've never felt this in my life. All of a sudden, Hizam, her father, enters the room. He said, your vision has been interpreted. She says to him, what do you mean? Tumama looks at Hizam. She said, what do you mean her dream has been interpreted? He said, she's just been asked for marriage by Amir al-Mu'mineen, salawatullah wa salamu alayh. Just now, the proposal has come. She goes, now look at al-Banin. Why al-Banin is of so significant stance in as far as her character is concerned. Because I need to run. She goes to the house, the entire tribe of Hizam, because he was the leader of his tribe. They come to take her to Amir al-Mu'mineen from their village or from their tribe to Medina. An entourage of camels, and they arrive. He tells her father, Dad, I have one request. Have I ever asked you for anything in my life? And Hizam says no. And Hizam loved al-Banin, salamullah alayh. He loved his daughter. He said no. She said, now I want that request. She said what? He said what? He said, tell everyone to go back. And only you and my mother take me inside the house of my master Ali ibn Abi Talib. Ajib. He says, why? We are all happy for you. The whole tribe is happy for you to take you to your new home. She said, yes, I am happy too. But I cannot face someone like the caliber of my Imams, Hassan and Hussein and Zainab and Kulthum, who have just lost their mother, and me coming into their home, celebrating me being the wife of their father. This is a woman. This is a woman. She goes in. He accepted. Goes in. First thing she says, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, it is the habit of the Arabs. Maybe you have it here in Kuwait. Or most GCC countries. If a guest comes to you, the first thing you tell him, Amir. صح? Amir. تدلل. صح? تدلل. It's a way of showing your hospitality to your guest. So al-Banin was told the same thing by Amir al-Mu'mineen. al-Banin. He said to her, your wish is my command. What is it that you want for us to do? She said one thing. He said what? He said, never call me after today, Fatima. Call me al-Banin. He said, why, Ya al-Banin? She said, Fatima is the same name as the mother of your children. They are my Imams. If they hear the name Fatima, do you know the sorrow they will have in their hearts? This is al-Banin. Salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. Anyway, we go to Karbala. Right? We go to Karbala. Now the caravan is coming back. Imam Zayn al-Abidin, Sayyidah Zainab, salawatullah wa salamu alayha, they approach the Medina of the Prophet. Sayyidah Zainab unveiled the curtain on the back of her camel. She sees a city. She's not familiar with it after a while, on the outskirts. Because they were traveling. They don't know when they get to their final destination. She unveiled the curtain. She looks a city. She says to Imam Zayn al-Abidin, where are we now? He says, this is the city of our grandfather, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Zainab looks at Medina. She said, Madinatu jaddina la taqbalina فبالأحزان والآهات جينا يا خرجنا منك بالأهلين جمعا ورجعنا لا رجالا ولا بنينا والحسين به قد رزينا. Zainab says to Imam Zayn al-Abidin, I don't want to go into Medina and announce. Imam Zainul Abidin looks around. He looks at Bishr ibn Hazlam, says, oh Bishr, your father was a great poet. Do you know any poetry? He says, yes, ya Imam, I am a poet by Allah and I know my poetry very well. He says, go into Medina and pronounce the coming of the caravan of the family of the Prophet. Bishr says, I tied a black ribbon around the neck of my horse and then took a black flag and entered Medina. The people of Medina approached. They said, oh Bishr, are you coming to lament or give us some sort of a news? He said, yes, I come with lamentation and a news, but I shall never apply or tell anyone about this news or lamentation until I reach the grave of my beloved Muhammad. When he arrived at the grave of the Prophet, he began to say, Ya ahla Yathrib la muqama lakum biha, قتل الحسين فأدمعي مدرار الجسم منه بكربلاء مضرج والرأس على القناة يدار. All the people began to lament and they began to say and take the name of Hussein, saying, Wa Husayna, Wa Imama. All of a sudden a woman comes. She said, open the way for me. She stands next to Bishr ibn Hazlam and she says to him, tell me about my beloved son Hussein. Is he alive or dead? Bishr says, I was taken by surprise. I've just announced the death of Hussein, saying his body is in Karbala and his head is on the lands. I asked, who is this woman? They said, this is the wife of Amir al-Mu'mineen, al-Banin. I realized, Bishr says, I'm in front of a woman who is bereaved. 4 of her children. 4. He says, عظم الله لك الأجر يا أم البنين بابنك جعفر. She says, I'm not asking you about Ja'far. Tell me about my beloved Hussein. عظم الله لك الأجر بابنك عثمان. She said, قد قطعت نياط قلبي يا بشر. I'm asking you about my beloved Hussein. He says to her, عظم الله لك الأجر يا أم البنين بابنك عبد الله. She says, I'm not asking you about my children. Listen to this, brothers and sisters. They say that al-Banin, when she came to Bishr, she had a young boy on her shoulder. She was carried. They say this was the son of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. He says to her, عظم الله لك الأجر بابنك قمر العشيرة Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. They say that what she really bent. She bent with her back, bent in front of Bishr. She said, Ya Bishr, I'm not concerned about my children. Tell me about my son, Abu Abdullah. He says, عظم الله لك الأجر يا أم البنين بولدك الحسين. al-Banin says she collapsed to the floor as she was falling down. That child fell in front of her. She remained unconscious. رحم الله من نادى معي وحسينا وإماما. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. لاودا. أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه. أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه. Last time from the bottom of your heart together with the loudest of your voices. أمن مضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء بحق محمد وآل محمد وبحرمة الفاتحة مع الصلوات. الله